just as daybreak, as I ran back and forth, I didn't realize for the past 2 hours during the night I was running back and forth, firing machine guns, letting the Japanese believe before the next wave came up that there were a lot of Marines up there. And I guess they fell for it. But I didn't realize that I was alone. But the 200 some Marines that were to my rear that was supposed to be alongside of me were down the slope with our forward command post, Major Conley. None of them could come up because it was flat, and they were shooting through my men, and they were having casualties back there, right behind me. The bullets were going right through my men and hitting into the riflemen, so they had no choice in the matter. And you couldn't blame them if they just all got up and took off, which happened on my left flank. They were just driven off the ridge and down toward the beach. And the Japanese knew this territory, and they were hoping they would catch the Marines someday in a position like this where they could break through with enough people. They had a straight shot down to the beach area, and you could look out to sea. All you saw was Japanese ships going back and forth, and they were firing at us at random, just throwing shells, anything from 3-inch to 14-inch rounds. They were so certain that they broke through because they had traversed this territory many times, and there were no obstacles behind me. It was a direct shot through just coconut trees right down to the beach road, and they would have isolated the entire 1st Marine Division along this perimeter, way out in the jungles, a man here and a man here, just making this great big horseshoe around Henderson Field. And it is taken them piecemeal because they could have landed thousands and thousands of sailors and Marines, whatever they had on those ships. And as I ran back and forth across the front lines, I ran over to my left gun, and I'd scream back to the rifleman of George Company, which was to my right rear because Fox Company had already departed from the area. And I unclamped my machine gun. I screamed to the rifleman to fix bayonets, and when he saw me disappear over the hill, to follow me over the hill. So I placed 2 belts of ammunition over my shoulders, and I had one loaded in the gun. I unclamped the gun and put it in my left arm, and unfortunately I'd cut the sleeves off my shirt the day before, off my dungarees, so I could throw hand grenades. They're kind of tight, and I felt that being a baseball pitcher, I wanted my arm free. And so I picked up a machine gun, and just as I started down the hill, and I knew that I could see the rifleman probably 80 yards behind me, just starting to move up. So I felt it was time for me to go. So I started down. At this point, there was nothing but bodies lying around, and I started down the hill, and I saw an officer come out of the kunai grass with a revolver in his hand. He was firing at me as I was charging toward him, and he had probably 15 or 16, maybe 18 men as guards, and my fast-firing machine guns, it was no problem at all as I bounced down the hill, just raking this, and they all fell over. And the Japanese officer had run out of his ammunition, threw his revolver to the deck, and started to pull his samurai sword as I approached him about 4 feet away, and one burst that came right down his face and his chest, and as the samurai sword started out, hit the sword, and the scabbard is still apart where I hit it. So all of a sudden it was quiet and peace, and as my men came charging over the hill with their fixed bayonets, whooping up these teenagers, most of them, it was the greatest sight I ever saw in my lifetime. But there was nothing but calm and enemy dead lying around. That's what they told me, the 920 around my machine guns, not counting those in the ravine and all around. So we obviously had eliminated that division. That was a very famous Sendai division in Colonel Oka's 228th Infantry Regiment.